Finally, when all the components are added and more or less configured, you can move on to configuring the appearance of the controllers, in order to make it easier to interact with the rig during animation. Normally, when you create a majority of components, their controllers have a shape strictly set in the component itself. Except in some components like Control, where you can choose the shape of the controllers in the Properties guide. But in fact, MGear allows you to set an optional appearance for any controller. Controllers in MGear are ordinary curves since they can be edited arbitrarily in component mode. For example, I'll increase the IK controller by its point and scale it up. Just like this. It's also possible to completely replace its shape with the Replace Shape command. First, you should select the object whose shape you want to copy, then the controller itself, and apply the Replace Shape command. You can copy the shape of an existing controller. For example, if I want to make an IK controller as a sphere, I can copy that shape from the elbow controller. I'll select the elbow controller first, then the IK controller, and apply the Replace Shape command. You can also create controller from presets and copy the shape from it. The commands CTL as child and CTL as parent create controller as child or parent respectively for the current selection. And if nothing is selected, controller is created in the root of the project. I'll probably create a pyramid by copying the shape on the IK controller, You can also copy the shape of any arbitrary curve. Bear in mind that the color settings are also copied. After you have copied the shape, you can delete the controllers you created from the presets. MGear allows you to mirror controllers with the Mirror Controls Shape command. You can apply it to a selected controller or mirror all controllers at once from the left side to the right, or vice versa. Now I'll mirror from the right side to the left side to return the normal shape of the IK controller. It is important to remember that the controller's shape adjustment is now done with the finished rig, and if there is a need to make any changes to the guides and rebuild them, the controller's appearance settings will disappear as a completely new version of the rig will be generated. When you rebuild the rig, in order to save the appearance of the controllers, you should save current controllers from rig to guide using the Extract Controls command in the Guide Manager or menu. It's applied to the selected controller. If I apply this IK controller command, then a copy appears in the Hidden Controllers group in the rig guides with the same name and the added control buffer ending. When you rebuild the rig, the MGear will search through the name in this group, search the corresponding control buffer for each controller, each component, and in case of success, it'll copy the shape. So if I now, for example, rebuild just the arm, you'll see that its IK controller is larger than its default size, and that all other controllers haven't changed their shape. If no control buffer is found, the controller will be built using the default form. That is, you can remove some control buffers to return the original controller's form. Notice that some controllers may be hidden, depending on the component's settings. For example, in the case of the arm, if it's in inverse kinematics mode, the direct kinematic controllers are hidden. And to display them, you should switch to direct kinematics mode in order to adjust its shape. For example, through a menu command on the arm host, as you may have noticed, MGear paints controllers according to side and type, in accordance with the global settings in the guide, which specifies the color index for in FK and IK controllers for each side. At the same time, if the color is specified with an index in the shape of control buffer attributes in the drawing overrides group, the color of the corresponding controller will be rewritten by the global settings when it's built. But if the color of control buffer is specified through RGB, then it'll be saved. I specify a color in RGB mode, such as pink, for the control buffer of IK controller arm. And if I rebuild this component, you can see that controller remains pink and all other controllers on the left side are blue. I'll skip the rest of the process of setting up the controller's appearance. There are no clear rules here. You can even skip this step altogether and work with the default controllers. As for me, I like everything to be user-friendly, so that the controllers can be easily selected, but at the same time they don't overload the viewport. Therefore, I usually make the primary controller larger and the secondary controller smaller. As a result, I got it like this.